Councillor Cooper.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. First of all, I'd like to start by thanking the leader and the chief whip of the majority party for agreeing to the convening of this meeting. This meeting is being held specifically this evening at the request of the minority party on this council, you could have been forgiven, and indeed Councillor Cook to some extent has mentioned this, that our only aim tonight was to play politics with what was clearly a very difficult situation for many residents in this borough on the night of the 8th of August. However, nothing could be further from the truth, and as I hope that the fact that we have gone to some considerable lengths to try and see that there is a motion, the one put forward by Councillor Osborn and indeed seconded by Councillor Cook, which incorporates much of our original motion and also incorporating a number of other key principles included at the request of the majority party. And I hope that in due course that all members in this room will feel able to vote in favour of the motion moved by Councillor Osborn and seconded by Councillor Cook, and I particularly commend that motion to everybody here. However, there are one or two points that have not been included in that main motion that we weren't able to jointly agree. It's not entirely surprising. We obviously usually spend a lot of time disagreeing with each other, and it would have been fairly extraordinary if we had been in complete agreement this evening. And specifically, we are concerned about police cuts in London. The cuts to our sergeants, which have just been confirmed just this week, and further cuts to the overall Metropolitan Police by the current Mayor, which have been confirmed by the Metropolitan Police Service. Now, Councillor Cook made several references to the facts, and I would like to present these facts. It is a fact that the current Mayor has frozen his precepts since 2008. It's a further fact that he's also spent quite a lot of money on extremely overpaid advisors. Neither of those things have helped his budget. It is further a fact that we've just lost several of our Safer Neighbourhood Team sergeants, including the need for Queenstown Ward's sergeant to cover not just Queenstown Ward, which is a ward with considerable needs and great demand on its Safer Neighbourhood Team, indeed being the only the ward where currently there's a number of quite severe problems. It's also a fact that the current Mayor is reducing the numbers of police. Indeed, his bog-off offer, buy one, get one free, which I believe Councillor Cook is quite familiar with, in the sense that we have considered accessing that offer in relation to our own Parks Police. And the reason why the current Mayor has been offering the buy one, get one free offer to the boroughs is purely and simply because it's not possible to make redundant sworn constables, and it is a method by him to reduce his expenditure on police officers. So, you know, all of those are facts. Sergeants are being cut, and the buy one, get one free offer does represent cuts of 1,100 police, rising in due course to 1,800. Now, Councillor Cook has spoken most eloquently about what happened on that night of the 8th of August, and I too would commend the police for what they were able to do. But numbers are important, and indeed Councillor Cook did say that in his speech. He talked about the fact that some of our local forces had been posted out of borough. Just as important as numbers, however, and this is included in the motion, which I hope that we're all going to be able to agree, is training. And it's quite clear that we don't really want people, you know, shooting at you know, using water cannon or baton rounds or anything like that on the streets of London or indeed on any city. But there is very specific training that we do need our local police to receive. And little 3 on the second page of the longer motion calls for more of our local police to receive training in dealing with riots and street disorder to ensure that the events, should anything like that ever start to look as though it might appear again, we need to ensure that law-abiding local citizens and businesses can remain safe. And I've had the opportunity at various meetings, as I think we all have, to listen to Jerry Campbell talking about how far we've got in the process of analysing what happened on the 8th of August. But it is clear that we also need to be looking ahead and facing the future. And so I would commend to everybody both the motion that includes the reference to training, but also the one that talks about the need to maintain numbers. I think both of those are equally important. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cooper. And thank you for keeping to time. Councillor Dawson.
Madam Mayor, thank you. I wish to really return to the events of August the 8th, particularly as a Northcote councillor. Northcote includes St John's Road, it includes Debenhams, and includes many of the streets through which the looters and rioters rampaged on that night, and including the Peabody estate as well, again, which suffered from that, from those disturbances. On that night, businesses, residents, and visitors to the area came under sustained attack from people who were quite intent on disorder, looting, and criminality. Lives were put at risk, and if you'd stay and listen, you might understand what actually
Madam, I hope you're leaving before I have you ejected. Madam.
Livelihoods were
Madam,
trashed.
please leave the
Businesses
public
destroyed.
gallery.
Please listen, you might learn something.
Councillor Dawson, please continue.
Thank you. As I said, lives were put at risk. Livelihoods were trashed. Years of endeavour building businesses were destroyed in a matter of minutes. Residents were terrified, and many felt effectively abandoned for several hours and were in fact understandably angry and dismayed and upset in the days that followed. Many premises were attacked, and it wasn't just TV sets from Curry's or the latest designer bags from TK Maxx. Many small shops, cafes, restaurants, real people, real jobs, real lives were affected. And I would recommend that members even of the gallery, but certainly my colleagues and officers, also listen to the evidence that was given to the Home Affairs Select Committee by Batters's MP, Jane Ellison, and the Vicar of St Mark's Church, Paul Perkin. They were both eyewitnesses to the criminal disorder that raged around the streets that night. And I'd be very happy to send to anybody the link to that Home Affairs Select Committee recording. Also that night and since, the resilience and strength of the community has been shown, and that shows, as we talked earlier, the true heart of Battersea and indeed Wandsworth. Neighbours helped and sustained each other. They cleaned the streets and they reopened for business. And one particular impression that I get from reading the roll call of the businessmen and women who were affected, it's a vivid celebration of the rich diversity of the communities that we have here in Wandsworth. But it wasn't just businesses. Hard-working residents coming home, those already at home, visitors to the area, and staff trying to get home. They witnessed the disorders, the looting, the noise of riot in their streets, the loading of cars and vans that have been driven into their streets to collect the booty. Traumatic, truly frightening for many people. Compounded when smoke billowed from the torched party shop over residential streets. Whatever was going to happen next. Now, as the rioters and looters are brought to justice, and I applaud the determination and dedication of the police and the criminal justice system, rioting and looting must have consequences for the perpetrators. We are starting to get a picture of those involved. Very briefly, 77% over 18, 88 or 91% known to the police. Once we know that, we can properly begin to address the issues. And it's starting to sound more about older adult males, many already known to the police, than youth crime. And were some ethnic groups overrepresented in the disturbances and others hardly represented at all? Many debates yet to come. Policing, can I echo the tributes to the police, the emergency services, and the council staff, and particularly town centre managers who were there on the ground on the night. In fact, one of the most shocking statements at the meeting on Monday night was that the fire brigade from Estey Road came under physical attack as they tried to put the fire out of the party shop. That is utterly and truly despicable. Councillor Cook has already talked about the reaction of the police at those public meetings, and I respect them. They are not rushing to judgment. They're there to learn, to understand, and to go into detail about what has happened. There are many detailed questions to ask, and colleagues know I've submitted a raft of them to Mr. Neil Kingan, so I await his report with a great deal of interest. But in conclusion, condemnation of the widespread criminality, robust support for the police and the criminal justice system, confidence that the various reviews will bring clarity and some answers, but above all, a celebration of the resilience of local communities in this borough. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Dawson. Councillor Thomas.
Madam Mayor, members of the Council, over the week of the 8th of August, as the trouble in Wandsworth unfolded, I had the interesting and, for me, unusual experience of observing the response of the police firsthand as an attendee at their Gold Group command meetings in my capacity as a Safer Neighbourhood chair. And I'd like tonight to share with you my thoughts from this experience in relation to two specific themes. Firstly, police intelligence, and secondly, police numbers. Before I do so, though, I want to put on record my admiration for the calm professionalism I observed in all of my interactions with the Borough Police that week, in the face of what I think we would all agree was an unprecedented, fast-moving and uniquely challenging situation. In particular, I was struck by how, even under these circumstances, the police's commitment to the importance of community relationships and reassurance never waned. At the recent public meetings on the disorder, the acting borough commander has stated that there was no hard and fast intelligence indicating a specific threat to Clapham Junction prior to the disorder that occurred there. Having sat through the meeting that took place on the afternoon of the 8th with the police, this very much chimes with my impression at the time. Clearly, the result of this was that officers had much less to go on than they would have liked when they had to take decisions about where to locate their resources. In addition, I suspect it also meant they had a weaker hand in negotiating to retain and step up resources within the borough in the context of the discussions that were taking place at that time across the Met. So I think one of the questions we do need answered is what can be done in future to improve the quality and depth of intelligence to which the police have access in such situations, particularly in the face of the growing role being played by the social media. I understand that this is something that the Met-wide review of the disorder is going to be looking at, and I hope it may be something that Neil Kingan's independent review may also touch upon. But secondly, I think it is important for us to look at the issue of police numbers, both from the angle of the level of resource within the borough and also the total number of officers across London. This is because what we saw in August was the police having to deal with a situation of